In today's climate, nothing will make you a more accurate or confident shooter than Crimson Trace laser sighting systems. Get the immediate, decisive advantage of the world's only grip-integrated laser sights today. Shoot better. Stay safer. Crimson Trace.
Today on Tom Gresham's Gun Talk, a doctor in favor of allowing medical staff the option to arm themselves in hospitals and clinics, and the latest FBI report on active shooters. Did they skew the numbers? Plus your range reports. Call now and talk to Tom at 1-TOM-TALK-GUN. That's 866-825-5486. Now, here's Tom.
I tell you what, we had such a week. I am so happy to be able to share with you. It's been an incredible week. We've had so much fun. We've been out at the range, well, all week, actually. We've been shooting guns, and we've been shooting cameras. We've been shooting TV shows for GUNTALK television. We've had Max Michelle, Chris Serino, Mike McNett from Double Tap Ammo, and more guns than you can get into a Chevy Suburban. I mean, I'm not kidding you. Guns and ammo and everything else. It has been... Holy cow, it's been fun. We have shot little bitty guns, and we've shot enormous guns. I just got through calculating some recoil figures. We'll give those to you later. I knew it was something, but OMG, holy smokes. You know, we call that the retina detached system. That's incredible stuff we were shooting out there. Having a ball. By the way, welcome. I'm Tom Gresham, and this is Gun Talk. If you'd like to get involved in this, it's pretty easy, really. And there are a lot of different ways for you to participate. First of all, of course, you can just give us a call. 866-TALK-GUN, get you in there. 866-TALK-GUN. If you prefer, 866-825-5486. Also, you can shoot me an email, tom@guntalk.com. On Twitter, I am at GunTalk, and we have a conversation going on over there. By the way, welcome to WYRD 106.3 FM in Greenville, Spartanburg, South Carolina. The area where my parents come from. If you're on Twitter, you probably saw I put out just a photo from an old political poster that was my grandfather when he ran for and was elected to the South Carolina House. This would have been a long time ago. Probably pre-World War II. I love the tagline on it. It says Gresham. It says, and the slogan is simply, elect good men. Okay, that works. That'll work for you. Again, 866-TALK-GUN. I have some more information. I've got some range reports for you. I have some pretty cool stories people have written in. Of course, we're always looking for your range reports. A lot of things, you know, nobody can shoot all of the guns, and I appreciate when you call and say, hey, I've been out shooting this, or I tried this, or this is a load. By the way, we did some really cool ballistic testing in ballistic gelatin, 9mm 45, 380, same type bullet, same manufacturer, see what differences there are. We shot suppressed, non-suppressed. We shot, all kinds of stuff. It just, I'll tell you all about it as we go through the next 3 hours. We have a ton of great guests lined up. And first of all, I want to start off with this study. Sometimes you just have to say it that way. Study or data that the FBI puts out. Usually you accept the FBI's data on crime. That's usually pretty darn good, frankly. It's pretty politically neutral. Well, maybe not this time. And joining us to talk about that right now is John Lott. He is the president of the Crime Prevention Research Center. Also, of course, the author of More Guns, Less Crime, The Bias Against Guns, and a number of other books. Hey, John, how are you?
Great to talk to you, Tom.
Well, look, I appreciate you being here. I mean, generally, in the past, we've always thought that we know that there are various sources of government data, with big air quotes around data, that are somewhat politically biased. But would you agree that in the past, we've kind of thought that the FBI info was pretty good, generally speaking?
Oh, sure. I mean, I've been reading FBI reports for 30 years. And, while administrations may be political from time to time, that type of political bias would show up in terms of how they use the data, not in terms of the data that was put together. So you'd have the National Institute of Justice or the Bureau of Justice Statistics would have what I thought were pretty bad studies using the data, but there was always a Chinese wall that existed between the raw data gatherers and how it was used.
Right, and we've always referred to the Uniform Crime Reports. It's kind of like that was our go-to place when we wanted to get the actual data.
Right. I mean, you can disagree with people on how to interpret what's there, but people generally. So now you've had cities like Philadelphia or Chicago, which have been known for kind of monkeying around with their crime data. But for the United States as a whole. But that wasn't the FBI's problem. That was, you'd have Ed Rendell in Philadelphia, or you'd have Rahm Emanuel or Daley in Chicago monkeying around with the crime numbers. But it was never a problem that one accused the FBI of doing.
Right. So now we've got an FBI document titled "A Study of Active Shooter Incidents in the United States Between 2000 and 2013," and they're saying that there have been 160 active shooter incidents are recorded in that time. And you are the leading researcher and statistician on gun accidents, crimes, self-defense gun use. I mean, you study all this stuff. You looked at this and came away shaking your head saying, no, not this time, guys. What's wrong with their study?
Well, I mean, the big thing that they try to point out and what got all the news coverage, I mean, one goes to our website at crimeresearch.org. I mean, we've collected a whole bunch of, front page stories from the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, USA Today, on, which reported, massive increases in mass public shootings over the last 15 years. And that's what the FBI reported claimed, that between 2000 and 2013, there was an average annual increase of about 16% in these types of attacks. The problem was, there are basically three problems that they did with it. First of all, they missed a number of mass shootings. If you're looking at cases where 2 or more people are killed, they missed 20 of those cases. But almost all of those came from the very beginning of the period. So by missing those cases, they make the early years, 2000, 2001, 2002 or so, look safer than they actually were relative to the later years. That helps it look like there's more of an increase over time than there actually was. The second thing they did was they're including what they call active shooters, not just mass shooters. Active shooters could be a case where somebody fires a gun in public, nobody's even shot, neither wounded nor killed. The problem is there's no real data source for that. The police departments don't collect data on somebody firing a gun in public without anybody being killed or wounded. And so what they did was they went back and looked at news reports to try to collect it. Here's the problem with news reports. Let's say I was looking at a real mass shooting where 4 people had been killed. If I did a news search, let's say a week after the event, maybe I'd find 800 news stories on it. If I do a search on that same event 5 years after it occurred, maybe I'll find 500 news sources. And basically what happens is that newspaper links get broken, organizations go out of business, they don't keep their archives up for many years, and so stories disappear over time. If you were to look at it 10 years later, maybe you'd find 250 stories. Now, for something where there's 4 people who are killed, there's so many news stories out there, it really doesn't matter a huge amount whether or not, you lose news stories over time. But let's say you're looking for cases where somebody's fired a gun in public and nobody's been shot. Well, you'll be lucky to get one news story on that to begin with. And so if I look at recent cases, I'll find news stories, but 5 years ago, there's a good chance I won't find a news story on it. Now, 80% of their news stories were just over the last few years on these so-called active shooter cases. And the thing is, it's not because those cases didn't occur earlier. It's because they don't know how many occurred earlier because they dropped out of their data set. So if you use this measure, this faulty measure, it's going to make it look like there's a lot more cases in recent years relative to earlier years. And that makes recent years look relatively more dangerous relative to early years than they actually were. That also tends to make things increase over time.
Okay, John, let me jump in. Hey, let me jump in there, John, because for those of us who are not statisticians like you are, what I'm picking up from this is the methodology of their study downplays the incidents early in this range, this date or year range, and kind of upscales the latter years, thus making sure that it looks like there's a frightening increase in the number when in fact that's not the case.
They make it look like these things are becoming epidemic relative to what they were before, because one of the reasons why one way you can scare people is say, look, this is becoming more and more of a problem. Just look at the trend. It's going up and up. It's getting completely out of control. And this report that came out from the FBI came out just weeks before the November election last year, and I believe that it was the Obama administration's attempt to use the FBI, their raw data gathering operation, to try to gin up the gun control debate. And if you look at the discussions there, everybody from the New York Times and others, that's what they took out of it, that we got an epidemic here that's increasing dramatically, and we really need to do something about it right away. Whereas if you look over time, there really wasn't a significant increase that was occurring. It was just how they manipulated the data.
Okay, let me ask you this, because you get interviewed by a lot of the general media, the CNNs, the Fox, the New York Times, that kind of thing. When you present this information to them, do they accept what you're saying? Do they understand what's going on?
Well, I mean, Fox ran a major news story on it. The guy, I'm not sure he understood what I was saying and kind of mucked up the story a little bit. But but unfortunately, I couldn't get any other major media to do a story on it. And they actually like what the FBI is saying. They don't want to hear what you have to say, because they like the storyline that crime is increasing, mass shootings are increasing. We must do something. Let's run around in circles with our hands in the air. Do something. Right. Exactly. And they gave massive coverage on the FBI numbers and no critical coverage of it. I just had a paper that just got published in the Academy of Criminal Justice journal that they have, report that they have, and I timed kind of the release for Fox News and others right when that came out. I figure a published study would get some credibility, but they just ignored it outside of Fox.
Hey, John, hold on a second. I got to take a quick break. When we come back, John has also run down, for those of us who are going to be at the NRA's annual meetings in Nashville, he's run down which of the restaurants out there have no gun signs, and he'll talk about that. And also, we're going to have a party at the NRA's annual meetings in Nashville. It's going to be me and a whole bunch of other gun folks. Some of them are actually celebrities. I'm kind of a hanger-on with those guys, but you're invited. You can go to this thing. So John will have that information for us when we come back. 866-TALK-GUN. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
You bet your life on your defense ammo. Get the proven performance of Nosler bullets in the new Nosler Defense Ammunition, featuring the same technology as the famous AccuBond line. Polymer tip or hollow point, bonded performance handgun bullets for weight retention and barrier penetration. Available only in Nosler Defense Ammunition in 9mm, 40, and 45 caliber. Also available in 223 with a 64-grain bullet. Visit Nosler.com.
The Ruger LC380 is the perfect pairing of the award-winning LC9 pistol and the popular .380 auto cartridge. The LC380 is the same size as the LC9, yet offers reduced recoil, making it Ruger's lightest recoiling personal protection pistol yet. It features a dovetailed high-visibility 3-dot sight system, 7-round magazine and finger grip extension floor plate, manual safety, and loaded chamber indicator. The Ruger LC380, another rugged, reliable firearm from Ruger.
Are you looking for a place to shoot? The National Shooting Sports Foundation has a great website called wheretoshoot.org. It's the largest database of shooting ranges on the internet. It's also a great resource for shooters where you can find video tips, printable targets, and a lot more. Find it online at wheretoshoot.org. And while you're there, download their free iPhone app. That's wheretoshoot.org.
In the field or on the range, you need a trigger you can trust. For over 60 years, Timney triggers have been trusted by hunters and shooters everywhere. A Timney trigger could mean the difference between a great shot and a miss. Timney triggers are proudly made in the USA and come with a lifetime warranty. To order, go to timneytriggers.com. That's TIMNEY triggers.com.
All right, back with you. We're talking with John Lott, noted economist, author, researcher, and he's been running down this information basically showing that the FBI's quote-unquote study on active shooters, where they say that active shooter incidents are increasing, is pretty much bogus. Now, John, let me ask you this. And by the way, you can get the information at the crimeresearch.org website. You'd put out this information for those of us going to Nashville on the restaurants there. Are there restaurants that are putting up no-gun signs simply because the NRA is coming to town?
There were a few like that. Basically, we went through the tourist district on Broadway and on 2nd Avenue and a couple places a little bit off of that, and checked to see whether they had no guns allowed signs posted, which they're required to do. But we also talked to the managers of a number of places, and there were a number of places that were, in fact, didn't have signs right now, but we're planning on putting them up in time for the convention, which was disappointing. And people can carry their guns at the convention center, but if they're carrying concealed there, it's kind of inconvenient if you go and try to get something to eat or stop in one of the bars there, and you'd be breaking the law by doing it. I mean, if you're a permit holder and you go into a bar, you're not allowed to drink. I mean, you could be the designated safety person or whatever there. But, it's just, we thought it'd be nice for people to know where they're welcome and where there's not. There's one restaurant that we found that actually had a couple of NRA signs up. They were not posted, but it was, it was nice to see that, so maybe they'll get. That's called Roberts it's on the north side of Broadway, but you can get the address for it at our at crimeresearch.org.
Okay, tell them about this party that we're having on April the 10th in Nashville, because I'm going to be there. Ted Nugent, Brad Thor, Dana Loesch, Katie Pavlich, a lot of gun folks going to be there.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about it. Be a nice chance people can go and meet you. They can talk with you. They can meet Ted Nugent. We have two parts to the event in the evening. One is kind of a reception where there's a stand-up dinner. And then we have a couple hours where people are going to be giving speeches. And we're going to have an auction there for people to go shooting. So if you want to go shooting for an hour and a half with Ted Nugent the next morning, we have the Nashville Armory, which is the 1 5-star shooting range in the state of Tennessee, indeed, and the whole general area here. They've agreed, they've volunteered, donated a section of lanes that they have. And so if somebody wants to go shooting with Ted Nugent or Brad Thor or Dana Loesch, they can go and they can bid on that. We also have someone who trains Navy SEALs and Special Forces. He normally charges $5,000 a day to go and train people, but he's volunteered his services. People can go and bid on shooting with him too, get kind of a free lesson from one of the very best that's there. And
this thing is obviously this is a fundraiser for the Crime Prevention Research Center. The dessert, coffee, tea thing, let's see, Friday, that's going to be, what, is it $50? Do I see that right?
Right, that's right. So
that's from 6:45 p.m. till 9 p.m. And then The smaller deal, the more exclusive deal, is going to be $200 for that.
Right, exactly. And but hopefully people find it fun to go and hobnob in a small group with Ted Nugent and Brad Thor and people like that. But and there's a good chance, I think, that we'll have a really big name speaker there. I don't know yet for sure, but hopefully in the next couple of days we'll have that lined up. But we've tried to do a battle with the Crime Prevention Research Center. I think we've gotten a lot of valuable information out, just for example, on the FBI report that we were just talking about. We have about 20 academics from around the country, people at Harvard and University of Chicago and the Wharton Business School and other places. We have some academics around the world. There's a guy in Australia that I've worked with. I testified before the Australian Senate there on their gun control laws. I think we can make a difference. You have
absolutely. Look, John, you have been. Look, let me just jump in. You have been making a difference for more than a decade with your books, your research. A lot of us use that. I'm just going to, and I'm out of time. I'm just going to encourage people to go to the website, crimeresearch.org, see all the things that John Lott has been up to, and they need your help. They need your resources, your donations. If you can throw some money in, you can donate on the website. If you can make it to Nashville, we're going to have a ball. We're going to have a good time with this thing. John, look, I appreciate you putting this together. Thank you so much for including me. It's quite the lineup you've got put together there, and it's going to be fun. Listen, I've got to run. I appreciate it, my friend. I'll see you in Nashville. All right, let's see. I was going to give you some range reports. Got to shoot a lot of different things, including a 505 Gibbs, 600 grain bullet, 150 grains of powder, 2,100 feet per second. The recoil is prodigious. It's pretty, but I'll give you some numbers on that when we come back. It'll be your chance also to give us some range reports. Haven't had an opportunity for that for a few weeks. If you'd like to get in on that, 866-TALK-GUN, 866-TALK-GUN. We'll also have a place where you could go to get all sorts of facts. When you're discussing guns, gun rights, accidents, that type of thing, we'll have you a source for that as soon as we come back here. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk, 866-TALK-GUN. Be right back with more talking about guns.
Want to be a guest on the show? Drop us a line at info@guntalk.com. You're listening to Gun Talk with Tom Gresham.
All right, welcome back. 866-TALK-GUN. You know that you want to have lots of ammunition, right? Well, that's especially true when you are talking guns and gun rights with folks who you're trying to be persuasive. You're trying to get them over on your side. You're trying to explain to them the real information, not the stuff that CNN passes off. And look, let me just say it really, really simply. CNN fakes stuff. They fake the news when it comes to guns. We've caught them at least twice. I don't know how many other times we haven't caught them. I caught them making up quotes for somebody from the ATF who said that all this crime was being committed with so-called assault weapons. This was back when they were debating the 1994 Clinton gun ban. I tracked down the guy they quoted. He said, no one from CNN has ever talked to me. They made it up. And then, of course, they showed the full auto guns every time they discussed semi-auto guns. Not confused at all. They knew exactly what they were doing. And then he had the John Zarella fake news deal where he supposedly was shooting cinder blocks with an assault weapon, and then with one that wasn't an assault weapon. Again, once again, saying the assault weapons were the machine guns. It was interesting. He was shooting a .223 into cinder blocks. When you shot it with the bad assault weapon, it blew up. When you shot it with the semi-auto version, nothing happened. Completely bogus. Totally faked. So where do you go for information? How do you get good information that you can use. I call it intellectual ammunition. Well, Guy Smith has that. He's the guy who puts together Gun Facts. He joins us right now. Guy, how long have you been doing Gun Facts?
Oh, good Lord, Tom. I think I've been doing it for about 15 years now, and my wife is kind of nudging me along. She says, you've been doing this so long and hard, maybe you should just try to make a living at it. And who knows, maybe I'll go down that road.
Well, I mean, you got started because you probably, like me, you're frustrated all this bogus information and also just kind of difficult to pull together the information you need.
Well, and that's how it all got started. I was just kind of peripherally aware about some of the arguments inside of the gun control debate, and I saw a member of one of the gun control groups on television one night saying something which I just incidentally knew was incorrect. And in my political naivety at the time, I wrote him a letter and I said, well, your talking points were incorrect. You should probably brush this up. And, you definitely want to not say this in public again. A year later, he was saying the exact same thing. So being somebody who does not suffer liars lightly, I took up the mantle, and I have just been savagely going after anyone who is trying to defraud the public and pass along bad information to them. And in that,
you've got all the, let me jump in. You've got all this information available on online. You've got it available in printed form. It's an amazing collection. It's called Gun Facts, and the website is gunfacts.info, gunfacts.info. You compile this stuff in a way that people can actually use, and that's what I like about it.
Well, I would not only want them to use it, I want them to share it. We're now in the social media universe, and we are trying to condense what can be incredibly complex information into very short, meaningful little infographics that you can just copy and paste directly into Facebook or share them on Twitter, whatever you need to do, and share this with the broadest possible audience.
Well, I mean, and that's, of course, you're right. We are at the point now where that is how information is distributed. And it, frankly, for 1.5 to 2 generations of people now, it's how opinions get formed. It's what they see on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and other things. So being able to share the information that way easily and pass it along has a multiplier effect for all of us.
It does, and it relates to what you were just saying about CNN. I started saying back around 1998, I said that the mass media is no longer in control of the political conversation. We wrested that away from them a long time ago. I love telling reporters that because you will never see a face pucker up as badly as when you tell them they're no longer in control of the message.
In other words, you tell them you're irrelevant now, and that really ticks them off.
That's true. I've always thought that they were a little bit irrelevant. In fact, I wrote a book once called Shooting the Bull, and it was describing to people political propaganda, and I used the gun control movement as my case study. And one of the criticisms I got was, Guy, you never talked about the media. And my pushback was to write a concise book about how the media misleads the public would take more time than I have left on this planet, and I'm a young, healthy man. And there's deforestation laws against cutting down that many trees just to print books.
Okay, let's cut to the chase. You need help with this thing, though, right?
That's the first thing I want to cover today, a little bit of help. GunFacts has always run on donations, just from the people. I don't take money from national organizations. I wouldn't take it from Brady or NRA, not that I hate any particular group, but as long as I'm not connected with those groups, then I'm unbiased and I'm presenting just raw factual information. So it's always run off of donations from people who want to preserve the truth, and we are now in the last 3 days of our annual fundraiser, running a little bit behind schedule this year. So anyone who appreciates quality information, wants something they can share with the public, we need your help, and we need it in the next couple of days.
Okay, you just go to gunfacts.info for that. Okay, point 2.
Point 2, we did some interesting research recently just to do a little bit more of this debunking. And what happened was we kept hearing this one soundbite over and over again. It said that lax gun control states where there wasn't a lot of gun control, were the source for crime guns in other states. And I thought that was an interesting comment. And then, of course, the Brady campaign in the last couple of weeks came up with that ridiculous YouTube video with some criminally bad actors in it. So I asked the fundamental question: is this true? Well, the BATF handed me a handy spreadsheet which showed where crime guns came from and where they ended up in, and I found out something fascinating. When it comes to states with strict gun control laws, not only do they get more of their imported crime guns from other strict states, they get far less from lax gun control law states than anyone else in the country. In other words, guns retailed in states that do not have a lot of gun control basically don't end up in strict control states, but more than twice as many come from other strict control states.
Now, do you have that available at gunfacts.info?
It is. If any of your listeners go into our blog, there is an article there about the interstate source of crime guns, and there's one very elegant chart you can share which lays this out for anyone to understand.
Sounds good. I know there's a lot of other information. We can't get into all of it right now. I just want to encourage people, go to gunfacts.info. Please make a donation. Guy needs it. We need it. This is an amazing repository of intellectual ammunition that you can use in your discussions, your online debates, and when you're writing letters to the editor, comments on news stories, you can get the facts, and it's all sourced right there. Guy, thank you so much for what you're doing, man. I appreciate that. All right, 866-TALK-GUN. 866-TALK-GUN will get you in here. I'm Tom Gresham. This is Gun Talk.
From the time Sam Colt created the gun that won the West, Colt handguns have set the standard. Today, that single-action Army revolver is still available, showing craftsmanship known worldwide. The 1991 series of autos continues the legacy started by the world-famous Colt 1911. And the new polymer Mustang XSP breaks the mold when it comes to concealable lightweight pistols. To see more, go to coltsmfg.com. Colt, the legend continues.
There's a rise in home invasions in America, and you need to be ready. Ready to protect yourself and your family. The bedside backup from Crossbreed Holsters keeps your gun at your bedside, ready to go. It also folds flat for easy storage and travel. Take it with you and use with any hotel bed. To see more, go to crossbreedholsters.com. That's crossbreedholsters.com. The bedside backup is not a child safety device.
Attacks happen every day. How will you react? See real people put into real-life criminal attack situations on First Person Defender. Discover what works and what doesn't. Kidnapping, ATM robbery, home invasion, and other attacks. Learn how to save your life and the lives of your family. Get the entire first season on DVD at shopguntalk.com. Get prepared. Shopguntalk.com.
If you're looking for a safe and trusted way to sell your firearms, look no further than Dury's Gun Shop. I trusted them to sell my dad's collection. They built their business for over 50 years on honesty and customer service. Dury's Guns will buy any size collection or estate, none too big or too small. Selling your firearms to Dury's Guns is easy. Go with the pros. I trust Dury's Guns. Dury'sGuns.com. All right, we spent the whole week at the shooting range. We were shooting TV. Had Chris Serino, Max Michelle, Mike McNett from Double Tap Ammo out there. Did a lot of fun stuff. I'll tell you a little bit more about that. One of the cool parts was I handed Chris Serino the GT20, the one and only GT20, the 10 millimeter SIG P220, and the GT20 commemorates the 20 years of Gun Talk radio. Now, there are only 2 more days available for this. You got to be able. Midnight on the 31st of March, it's over. You cannot order one after that. So I had told Chris about it, handed it to him. He goes, "Oh, man, that is a good-looking gun." I said, "Try the trigger." He tried the trigger. He goes, "Oh, yeah." Now, he wasn't going to shoot it on TV. Turned out he did. But we were about, 50 yards, back where we were setting up all the TV stuff. We were about 50 yards from the targets. And handed it to him and handed him the ammo and said, "Just go ahead." So he just turned around and aimed at one of the steel targets down there. It's basically a person-sized steel target. And just commenced a wailing on it at 50 yards, right out of the box. First time he shot it, first trigger pull, bang, bing, bang, bing. I mean, it's got this fiber optic sight. He's all over it. And he's loving this gun. I said, it really is that good. So let me talk to you for just a second about the two feelings you hate to have. Two feelings you don't want to have. One is embarrassment, and the other is regret. In 2 days, if you have any interest in this and you don't do it, you are going to be embarrassed later on that you could have and you didn't, and you're going to regret that you could have and you didn't. Here's the deal. For those who don't know, we're only producing a few of these, not a lot. It's probably going to end up being, a couple hundred, maybe 300. And whatever the number ends up, yeah, that's right. Good point. We don't have to have all the money right now just to put a deposit down. If you go to Dury's Guns, Durys, DurysGuns.com, you can put a deposit down on one. It says on the picture 1 of 1,000. We're not going to sell 1,000. We didn't know how many we're going to sell. But whatever the number is, we'll probably be somewhere in the 250 range. So the guns are going to say 1 of 250. So that's going to make them even more unique. No, there's no such thing as more unique. That's more rare, okay? So that's going to be a kind of a cool deal. One of the things you can't see with this gun, and you kind of have to have it in your hand to understand it, is the grip material. It's a different grip material than the regular P220 has. And I got Hogue to work with SIG to make the grip, but it looks cool, but it's made of GT10 material. It's very thin. So the grip is thin. It's a single stack 10 millimeter. It's a big old gun. I mean, doesn't kick a lot. It just works. It is so cool. This is a very nice gun. I have put in an order for more than one. I mean, I'm buying some of them. Okay, I am. Because, I mean, don't think that I get them for free. I don't. But it's just a cool project, and it's been fun. The SIG guys have worked with me on this, and Dury's Guns have worked with me. And it's interesting. I've gotten several emails. This is kind of interesting. People say, I ordered the GT20, and I just wanted to tell you how nice the people are at Dury's Guns. Well, that was interesting. I mean, I appreciate that, and I know that they are. I've worked with them for years. But it was just interesting that people thought it was different enough to want to pass that along. So just a thought there. Let's go to line 3. Bob's with us out of Richmond, Indiana. Hello, Bob. How are you?
Hi, Tom. Let me give a question or a comment. If you go to the range with two different kinds of guns, one's a semi-auto and the other is a revolver, you have to be careful to not hold them the same way because you might get hurt. The semi-auto, the slug can come back and get you.
That's true. First of all, you don't take, I'm going to imagine you're shooting right-handed. For the right hand, you do not put your left thumb over the top of your right thumb and put your left thumb over on the meaty web part of your right hand. That's a bad grip no matter what, okay? But if you do that with a semi-auto, the slide's liable to come back and cut a big old chunk of meat off of your thumb. Conversely, if you're shooting a revolver, don't use what we call the long thumb grip, because that would stick your left thumb for a right-hand shooter out in front of the cylinder. And there are very hot, very fast, powerful gases that shoot out from the sides of a revolver around the barrel cylinder gap. It can cut a hole into your thumb. It can cut your thumb off. So understand the proper grip for the gun you're using, semi-auto or revolver. 866-TALK-GUN. All right, back with the 866 Talk Gun. Had an email from a gentleman. Frank writes in, he says, ordered my Stag AR in 2012, and the FFL and I did the paperwork while we watched the Newtown event unfold. Said, several months ago, my bolt stopped locking back on an empty mag. I lived with it. I figured I had cheap mags, but not all of them. And it would lock back on an empty mag when I dry fired, not just on live fire. So he checked all the online forums where too many people don't sign their names, have too many ideas about what the problem could be. Finally, he says in February, he had some spare time at work and thought, what would Tom do? So he went on the Stag website. Now, understand the subject line of this email is, you always say to call the gun maker. Yes, I do. So it continues. I engaged in an email conversation that day with a customer service rep. All very cordial. I was prepared to live with the problem and didn't expect such a quick response from a Stag rep. He offered a few conjectures, but decided that it was my bolt catch assembly. So he sent me one. No charge, sight unseen. I took it to the range with the new BCA and everything worked perfectly. I continued to learn a lot about ARs. None of the forum geniuses mentioned BCA, the bolt catch assembly. Thanks to Stag Arms and to you for your advice, Frank. Thanks, Frank. I appreciate that. Yes. Guns are mechanical devices. They work in a rough environment. A lot of pressure, a lot of heat, a lot of fast motion. Sometimes things don't quite work as they should. Sometimes things break. Give the company that made the gun a chance to make you happy. You are unhappy if your gun's not working right. Guess who else is unhappy if your gun's not working right? The people who made the gun. Give them a chance to make it right. One guy I got the email string on was mad as all get out, went online and ranting and raving about Wilson Combat. Great company, make good products. Yeah, but they didn't do this, and I had a problem, and they didn't respond as quickly. It didn't respond in 24 hours. The guy was so irate, and then when they finally fixed it for him, they didn't say, we're sorry. What a baby. What a crybaby. What a whiner. Are you kidding me? The company fixed it for you in a matter of days. They were not open on, they're not open on Friday. Sent it in, got there on Thursday, and so he was mad because it didn't get fixed in 24 hours. You know, what do they say? In every group there's a jerk, and if you don't see him, you may be the one. Give the company a chance to make it right for you, okay? I ran into something interesting. You know how we always say you don't know what you don't know? Turns out that there's actually a study about that. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. It's described as a cognitive bias, wherein unskilled individuals unskilled individuals suffer from illusory superiority, mistakenly assessing their ability to be much higher than it is accurate. In other words, people who are incompetent fail to recognize their own lack of skill, fail to recognize genuine skill in others, fail to recognize the extremity of their inadequacy, and here's the kicker, they recognize and acknowledge their own previous lack of skill if they are exposed to training for that skill. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. In other words, if you don't have any self-defense firearms training, you think you know what you're doing. You do not. There's only one way for you to find out how much you don't know, and that's to go get the training, and then you turn around and go, wow, I didn't know this. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. I knew it was there. I just didn't know what to call it. We'll be right back with some interesting gun talk.